Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advance. This is going to be the very first video on this channel and this is going to be one hell of a game. This is from Speedchess Championship and this is game 3 between Magnus Carlsen and Maxime Vachier Lagrave. Time control is 5+1 and what an amazing game it is. And without further ado, let's dive straight into this amazing game. Players start with a weird setup and I'll show you what I mean by this when we start the game. So let's get on straight into it. Magnus goes for d4, Maxime goes for knight f6, and Magnus plays knight f3. This is pretty much standard, but Maxime goes g6, and Magnus goes for knight d2, and Maxime plays d5, Magnus goes b3, and Maxime goes bishop g7, Magnus goes bishop b2. Magnus already had this position earlier this year, and Magnus was easily able to win this game after his opponent castled. But in this game, Maxime had something else prepared for Magnus, and Maxime plays bishop f5, and Magnus just develops, and Magnus plays e3, and Maxime castles, and Magnus goes bishop d2, just development moves, hoping that the other player makes a mistake. Maxime goes for knight e4, and Magnus simply castles. Maxime plays c5, obviously you cannot capture as your bishop hangs. Magnus goes for knight e5, getting the knight to a nice central square, and Maxime plays knight c6. Now we get into a series of trades. First Magnus captures, bishop captures, knight captures and pawn captures, and Magnus goes for c3, locking in this bishop for a moment being, but after all the captures takes place, this bishop will get out and will serve as a very useful attacker in the game. Magnus goes for this stonewall kind of setup, and Maxime plays queen a5, and Magnus goes for a4, creating further weaknesses in his camp. And what Maxime should have done in this position is go for rook f b8 and further pile up on this weak b3 pawn, but instead what Maxime did was just capture, c captures, and now instead of recapturing, Magnus goes for a swish and soup and goes for b4. And in this position what Maxime should have done was just give up the queen, and yes, you heard that right, giving up the queen is the better move in this position. And after capturing the queen and capturing this bishop, now see these bishops are just absolute monsters. And after rook moves and capturing this as well and playing something like c5, you see what I mean, because look at this pawn shape, and handling all of this in a blitz game is just near to impossible, and it's more than enough compensation for the sacrificed queen. But Maxime believes Magnus, and Maxime just goes back, and Magnus plays a5, Maxime goes further back, and Magnus just captures, c captures, and Maxime captures with the queen, and Magnus plays bishop a3, eyeing that e7 pawn, and Maxime goes back, defends it, and Magnus plays queen d2. Maxime goes for rook f to c8, and Magnus occupying further squares plays a6, and Maxime goes back, queen c7, and Magnus plays f3. And Maxime goes back and Magnus plays g4, and it was again in this position another moment where Maxime shouldn't have trusted Magnus and played the best move in this position, which is bishop d7, and not worry about the e7 pawn, as e7 pawn is not up for grabs, because if you capture the e7 pawn you get this variation where black is very much better, happy, and the white king is wide open, and anyone who's pushing for a win here is going to be black. But Maxime decides against that, and Maxime goes for, but okay, Maxime goes back and Maxime blocks this pawn, and now he's not able to get this crucial e5 thrust in the position. But okay, Magnus goes for rook b1 and Maxime plays rook b8, countering that rook's influence on the b5, and Magnus plays bishop c5. And you can see in this position, this bishop is eyeing these pawns, this bishop is occupying these squares, and look at this bishop is just eyeing this pawn, and this bishop is basically a pawn. If I had to ask anyone which side they would choose, they would definitely say white in this case. So Maxime, not having much in this position, goes for h5, and after g captures, instead of recapturing, Maxime plays bishop f5, eyeing that rook, and Magnus goes for bishop d3. Even in this position, what Maxime should have done was just to capture this bishop, queen captures, and now play e5. But instead, what Maxime did was he went for e5 straight up, and Now it's a different story because Magnus captures, G captures, F captures, sorry, bishop captures, and bishop captures, pawn captures, and Magnus goes for queen g2. Now you can see that Maxime's king is wide open and an attack is definitely coming. Maxime goes for queen f7, trying to hold on to everything, but normally that never actually works out. And Magnus goes for pawn captures, bishop captures, and f4. And after the bishop moves back, Magnus goes for queen g4, centralizing the queen and getting ready for that attack. And now in this position, you can't even exchange rooks, because if you do decide to capture this, Magnus will first capture that with the check, and only after the king moves, capture this rook. So Maxime goes back with the rook, and Magnus exchanges a pair of rooks. Rook captures, and Magnus plays the only move which will give him an advantage in this position. Magnus goes for f5, and after captures and rook captures, Maxime gave a few checks. King g2 and rook b2 check, king h1, but now Maxime runs out of checks, and Maxime plays the only move which is there in the position, which will give him something, but it's not good enough right now. Maxime goes for queen c7, eyeing that h1 pawn and hoping to deliver that checkmate, but now the position is completely lost for Maxime. Try to find this crushing idea while I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to find this idea, congratulations, because it's not an easy one to spot. And Magnus plays in this position rook f8. Extremely crushing idea, and now you see the problem because it's a mate f5. Queen h5, and after the bishop blocks, queen f5, and after the king moves, bishop d4. And now you see that the black has run out of any squares that he can go to, and the only move is to left. The only move left is to block with the queen, and after bishop captures, you just get mated. So very brutal game by Magnus, and very crushing victory as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be coming up with another amazing game, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you all.